Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Sarwani. Today I'm gonna review about chapter 11, Structuralist Poetics. In chapter 6, we explore the form of structural inquiry assisted with the tradition that run from the Caesar to Lévi-Strauss. That approach, as we saw, centered on analysis of the paradigmatic dimension of culture and took as its central tool the analysis of binary opposition. When Lévi-Strauss looked at the Oedipus myth, for example, he had little interest in story as the barrier of meaning. Rather, his primary concern was with the way that concept could be plucked out of narrative uncover underlying structure. Another significant current in structuralism, however, has been concurred with the investigation of narrative by the social organization of Singh. Roland Barthes asserted that we need to study symptom as well as system of productivity, set about explaining how one particular story worked in the pleasure of the text. Moreover, he argued that the storyline was a major source of the great eclecticism reader with the anticipation demons. When structuralists approach the analysis of narrative, especially in conventional story and literal, their activity is often given the name of structuralist poetics. The central theme is often not so much binary opposition, but rather plot, character, and genre. Advocates of the approach sees as a step toward a more scientific approach to literature, one which goes beyond traditional evaluate criticism and try to set up value-free yardstick of stress, classifying, and exploring text. Within this tradition, the work of Russian folklorist Vladimir Frog has a conical position, especially with the field of literary criticism and folklore study. Now we move to Vladimir Frog. Vladimir Frog can be considered a true pioneer in the structural analysis of culture, written in 1920. His work on the morphology folktale substantially predicted that Lévi-Strauss on myth. Frog's major interest was in the thematic organization of such popular traditional story. He noted certain similarities in the structure of the hundred of tale he examined, even though the character is precise even would vary from one to another. Rob argued that each narrative was made up with a he-called function that were elements of a story or plot made up from the action of a character. Freud claimed that there were never more than 31 functions in a tale, and more importantly, that they always appear in the same order. Essentially, stories which look very different on the surface. This one might be a prince, that one about a woodcutter, and had the same underlying structure to give some idea in how this look. Here are the first five of prop function. 1. One of member of a family leave home. 2. An introduction of addressed to the hero. 3. Interdiction is violated. 4. The villain makes a time at reconnaissance. 5. The villain receives information about victim. The villain attempts to decide his victim in order to take possession of him and his belongings. To get feel for this function, think about the story Little Red Riding Hood. He leaves her family device introduction not to enter the forest alone is proposed to trick by the wolf, and soon Probe always notes that the story tended to have character who fulfill set role as required by the system of function. They were a villain, the donor provider that helped for the fringe, or others such as after the first son and her father and the speech pather. Like other structures and inquiries, Poor work demonstrates a powerful ability to uncover her commonality amid apparent diversity. His particular achievement was to demonstrate that this regularity could exist in the societal organization of the story. It there and limitation of port work. It is the he was concurred that mostly of narrow of the Russian folk tale is not clear what the wonder of his acceptability he saw answering findings. Several difficult questions remain to be answered. For example, Doctor and kind of story that folktale, how the structure of the folktale indicates something beyond itself. Why with respect to this question, we can detect a different emphasis in the work of Lévi-Strauss. The great French anthropology was concurrent to documentary to University of Binarity Opposition. The need of mythologies to medicate on the dilemmas of the contradiction of human existence and links between the mythology and the working of the human mind. For Weiler to address this biggest question by settling for a more descriptive kind of analysis has seen his work attended as mere formalism. It has, however, provided an exemplar for structuralism poetic by substanting an aestheticum of traditional literary criticism with a more scientific and value natural mode of interpretation. Northrop Frye. Probe was content to the common document the working of contemporary simple folk tale. A major challenge for the structuralism of poetic has been to develop a perspective that can encompass narrative forms as they appear over a range. Each genre since the 1950s, the work of Canadian theorist Northrop Frye has considered the most ambitious attempt at constructing such a scientific model or criticism. RI organized that while whole of literature into a coherent framework of classification, the point of this was to move beyond the ethical moralistic of criticism of his era, which confused formal about analysis with the judgment about good or bad, writing of or the human value of the other. Fry draw in apart Aristotle's poetic and suggests the structured relationship, linked character, flood a narrative, a genre over all form literature are. Critique as a structural poetic. The approach of structuralist poetic, exemplified by Probe and Frey, has a number of strong strengths. From a sociological point of view, it's over evidence of understanding narrative as a social fact which are subject to law and political regularity of which other and reader may be unaware. This allows for a possibility of constructing general theory and powerful analytic model with which to explore meaning in the text by demonstrating the presence of structural regulating driving meaning. Such an approach also allow use to effort team to anatomy of culture. It also point to the difference that can come from exploring character. For example, the hero, the fool, the villain, or a type of story. Example, the morality play, a stricter story request, which seem to have transcultural validity. This open up important avenue for cross-cultural comparative research, especially in the field of anthropology and folklore. Structuralist poetics tend to work with idea that fixed and unambiguous meaning exists in the text and that these can be floated out like current from a bond. Critics assert that such an approach today objective and clunky to capture sub- subtitles and of the narrative and meaning. It also neglects important questions about the role of power in construction of the text and symbol system. Finally, the point to the active work of reader and needs to understanding the ambiguous of text, both French and social. The work of Derrida and Barthes has provided important ammunition for such commentaries. However, perhaps the most influential early statement of this position come from Mikhail Bakhtin, who ordered in Russia around the same as Prop. Thank you.